I am in a very tough spot. You can probably hear it in my voice, but things are not really sounding all too great. I'm running on some cough tablets, as well as some lozenges, because I do feel an illness coming on. However, that is not going to stop me from wanting to make any video commentaries about things that I find interesting. So, please bear with me with the weird cadence and the very odd voice as we talk about the Montreal Canadiens and how they stole this very here prospect from the Nashville Predators. And yeah, I can totally hear it myself. I sound like AI right now, but believe me, it's not AI. I am just going through a rough patch after my 10-kilometer run yesterday in the wind and the rain. Kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. It bees what it bees. Let's talk today about Alexander Zharovsky. He's a player that we have made a bunch of videos about already on this YouTube channel. In particular, we already had some videos talking about just how much of a steal he was for the Montreal Canadiens. We had spoken about his commentary on Ivan Demidov. We also made the video a few days ago talking about how the Montreal Canadiens had Zharovsky ranked in the 16th and 17th overall range of the 2025 NHL Draft. Of course, we recognize the Montreal Canadiens did not use those 16th and 17th overall draft picks. They sent them to the Islanders for Noah Dobson. But the idea that Montreal had this dude ranked in the 16-17 range, but they were still able to get him at number 34, that means a lot. And that's what a lot of the conversations were about this guy that we had had. Just in case you needed a little bit of a refresher, Alexander Zharovsky played in the MHL this most recent season, scoring over a point per game for Tolpar Ufa at 50 points in 45 games played. He had 24 goals and 26 assists, and even had a small cup of coffee with Salavat Yuleev Ufa in the KHL playoffs. He had 1 point in 7 games over there. There's a lot to like out of Alexander Zharovsky. He has been labeled as somewhat of the next Andrei Kuzmenko-like asset. You know the mold. Russian, skilled, fancy with the puck, can make some brilliant things happen, whilst maybe not providing the most effective defense. I'm not going to go out there and start blaming Alexander Zharovsky for developing the skills that he had developed, but there's a reason why the Montreal Canadiens had this guy ranked 16th and 17th. With Zharovsky, the selling point is the pure, unadulterated skill that is impossible to teach. He is manipulative, deceptive, and always dangerous with the puck on his stick in the offensive zone. Now, the reason we are making this video today is because of an article posted on CBC's Radio Canada website. This will be linked in the description. It talks about how the Montreal Canadiens have an advantage when it comes to Russian players. This piece was posted by Alexandre Gascon 2 days ago, and I would highly recommend that you go out there and read it yourself. But the meat and potatoes of this article talks about how the Montreal Canadiens do have a bunch of Russian dudes. There was a rare visitor to the Canadiens development camp last week. Russian guys. Russian hockey players, to be precise, drafted in the last 3 drafts and who are playing or were playing in their country's leagues. Bogdan Konyushkov, Evgeny Volokhin, Makar Kainin, and Arseny Radkov, a Belarusian who had played in Russia, were all discovering bucolic brassard for the first time. Man, I cannot even talk normally, so please do not throw words like that at me over here. Interacting with the team's owners was not easy, as most of them barely spoke a few words of English, although Radkov, a 17-year-old goalie selected 82nd overall on June 28th, and who will join the Blainville-Boisbriand Armada in September, already has a pretty good grasp of Liam Kirk's language. What a way to talk about English, eh? English. Let's scroll down past a lot of the conversation about Russian players who had suited up at camp and go over into the Alexander Zharovsky conversation at the bottom here. This is what the article says. There was a compelling example of this sphere of Russian influence at work during the most recent draft. With their first pick of the season, the 34th overall pick, the Montreal Canadiens selected Alexander Zharovsky, a talented winger who showed impressive growth last year. The youngster's name didn't even appear on the league's central scouting list of European prospects in the fall, and he ultimately finished 5th on that list. The fact that Zharovsky was a childhood friend of Demidov may have helped his cause, but it certainly wasn't a deciding factor. Now, of course, this was already the topic of one of the other commentaries that we had made about Zharovsky, the fact that he was a childhood friend of Ivan Demidov. There's a lot of links there. The fact that Zharovsky had spoken highly about Demidov too bolsters a lot of confidence for Montreal Canadiens fans. You have to know people in Ufa, 1,300 kilometers east of Moscow, where the young man played, to be at peace with this selection. Some scouts saw Zharovsky as a first-round pick, others more as a late second option. Montreal tried to secure a first-round pick to avoid having the rug pulled out from under its feet, without success. On Saturday morning, however, Zharovsky was still there. The Canadiens wanted him, and Bobrov knew that Zharovsky would no longer be available if the Canadiens had let the Nashville Predators make their 35th pick. Even though Barry Trotz's gang hasn't picked many Russian players in the past few years, they haven't hesitated to do so with high picks like Igor Shurin, Fyodor Svechkov, and Yaroslav Askarov. Montreal thus managed to climb to 34th overall by offering the Hurricanes the 41st and 49th overall picks, a small spot ahead of Nashville. After the draft, Bobrov even called Jeff Keelty, his counterpart in Tennessee, to confirm his impression. Conversely, when the Predators saw the Habs logo appear at 34th, they suspected that the game was already over. Was the game worth the candle? Time will tell. In the meantime, the Canadiens are trying to make the most of this competitive advantage. So essentially, what this article is saying is that Nashville had their eyes set on taking Alexander Zharovsky with the 35th overall pick. And Montreal, somehow, they knew this. They knew that Nashville wanted Zharovsky at 35. So they quickly made a trade to move up to 34 to snag Zharovsky before the Preds could get him instead. And it was already confirmed here, as Bobrov ended up calling the folks over there in Nashville. And they said, yeah, when you guys went up to 34, we knew it was over. So with all this in mind, we are having so many more extra layers added to the Zharovsky conversation, from the fact that he is a childhood friend of Demidov's to the fact that the Canadiens had him ranked 17th overall. Maybe if they didn't make that Dobson trade, one of those picks would have been used to select him in the first place. So that is all fine and dandy. And then hearing here that Nashville almost had themselves the player instead before Montreal swooped in and stole him from them, that makes it all the more sweet, doesn't it? With this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Alexander Zharovsky? I gotta go. My voice is killing me, man. I am salivating way too much. I gotta go get some rest here. But what are your thoughts on Zharovsky as a prospect, and what are your thoughts on the Predators almost taking him instead? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.